Are you ready? Ready to bring a revolution to your relationships? Ready for the experiences on your dating adventure to evolve? Ready for more passion, intimacy, connection, and love in your relationship? Ready to heal past relationship wounds? You're in the right place. I'm Alan, the love engineer, and this is the Relationship Revolutions podcast. In this series, you'll get guidance and tips from me, interviews from other relationship experts, insights from couples who already have a great relationship, and other mind-opening conversations. G'day, and welcome to the latest episode of Relationship Revolutions, where today I'm joined by Brittney, and we're going to be talking about dating as parents and blended families and all that kind of thing. And to start with, first two questions, Brittney, how are you and where are you?
Thank you for letting me be on the show first. I'm doing great. And I am in the United States in Utah.
Utah. My American geography isn't very good, but I'm guessing that's kind of somewhere in the middle-ish.
In middle-ish, yeah, more towards the West Coast. I'm not super far from Las Vegas. So
Okay. Excellent. So, blended families and dating single parents, I'm guessing that it's something that, like myself, you've got a little experience with. So, would you like to share with us a little bit about your story and background and where you've come to get to where you are today?
yes, I'd be happy to share. So it starts back over a decade ago. I was in a marriage that was, well, we can just simplify and say it was a toxic, unhealthy marriage. I was able to get out of that and found myself as a single mom. I had full custody of my daughter and in the dating world again, trying to figure out how to start over. Um, that's when I met my husband. At some point in there, he was also a single dad, and we met, fell in love, decided we can do this. We'll blend our families. And so we got married, combined our families to where we both had one, and thought it was going to be really easy. The joke was on us. It caught us off guard in so many ways, so many different aspects. We had co-parenting, and our parenting styles were different. And all of a sudden, the kids aren't getting along anymore because they're siblings instead of just friends, and just a lot of complications. And so, just kind of our journey through that was very difficult, but I thought it would be much easier than it was. Um, Looking back with hindsight, I think there were a lot of things that we could have done differently, which is why I do what I do now. Just try to make that transition easier for people who are trying to blend their families. There are certain strategies you can use in a step family, but also like things that we can do with our own mindset to make that transition easier.
Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest challenge with blending your two families?
This is a weird answer, but I think the biggest challenge was me, like getting over my own expectations and being able to be more flexible in certain ways where maybe I was more rigid, especially coming from a divorce, where I was kind of tired of being pushed around. I got pretty rigid. And so allowing myself to be vulnerable again and kind of open my heart and my mind to new ideas and concepts, that was very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, I had one of those unhealthy marriages as well, so I definitely get where you're coming from. Um, and I think one of the things that has the biggest impact on either blending two families or dating as a parent or dating a single parent is if the child's, shall we say, other parent is
Mhm.
involved or not.
Yes. Yes. I see this all the time with my clients, where that's one of the biggest problems that they're coming to with is, hey, this person is trying to control what's happening in our life and in our family, and I don't know how to handle it, and what can we do, right? And it is very difficult, especially if those people haven't been working on themselves. If they're a high conflict person and just kind of like to stir the pot all the time, those relationships can be very, very tricky to navigate, to say the least.
Yeah, especially if one of them's got parental alienation in their
Yes.
toolkit, or has a lot of, not shall we say, narcissistic tendencies, because not everyone that has those tendencies is a narcissist, although
Right.
you could get that impression of all the stuff on social media these days.
Yes.
Um, so let's start from the beginning. Let's say you've just come out of a long-term relationship and you've got children. You want another relationship. Where do you start?
Oh, there's so many places we want to start, but I think it really starts um with us. So I've got to work on myself, and you'll do a lot of work on yourself anyway. I'm going to pull in my own story too, just to kind of help
Go for it.
paint this picture. But what I did, I was going to a therapist or counselor, doing a lot of things for myself, got into a new marriage, and all of a sudden I am being re-triggered, and all of these things are coming up from my past because I'm in another marriage. It has nothing to do with the person or the people I'm with. It has everything to do with the circumstances, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
no matter how much work you will do, there will be things that will resurface, and you'll have to work on head on, face it again, uh, in that circumstance. So I guess being prepared, knowing that ahead of time, that nothing is actually wrong, that your body is actually working in the way it's meant to be like, hey, we did this once, like, sounding the alarms inside your body. And that's okay. And that nothing is necessarily wrong. You're just going to have to teach your body that there is safety there again. And that's depending on the severity of what happened in your first relationship, can be really difficult. So knowing that going into it, that there will be things that resurface. I mean, you could spend a longer time dating, but still, I think when you're actually getting married again, if that's the ultimate goal, if that's what you're looking for, it's the circumstance. So
Yeah.
work on yourself as much as possible. And then things that you might want to think about are your parenting styles. You could have the same values, you could be very much aligned in a lot of ways, think the same ways, but even down to the specifics of like, what are we going to do with screen time, or what are we going to do, how many activities are our kids going to be involved in, just really simple things that could be big things if you don't have those conversations beforehand with the people you're looking at in dating. I got a little ahead of myself, so I'm going to rewind a little bit. As you're looking for people, let's say that you're just new into the dating world, some things you might want to think about, like you mentioned, is the children's other parent. What are they like? Are they high conflict? Are they more easygoing? Do they live close? Do they live far? Like, those things can all be big factors. What are the finances? Are they going to court all the time, trying to like fight custody battles, or are child support or are paying alimony? Are those things financially going out the door, which is something that a lot of families don't think about beforehand. As you're looking for a person, You're wanting to find someone that's able to see the problem as the problem. What ends up happening a lot in blended families is I don't know why, but it feels like the whole world is just against your family and wants to rip you apart. And so, can we be on the same side? Can we stand here together and look at the problem as the problem? Like, yeah, this
Yeah.
circumstance is frustrating, but it's not me versus you. It's us versus that. And can we face that together? How does this person communicate? Huge, huge piece, right? Can we work through a problem? Not do we avoid all problems, because that's not realistic. Every relationship will have disagreements or differences of opinions, and that's super normal. But it's how we communicate and work through those
Yeah.
problems that will really, really matter. So look for someone that can admit when they make a mistake, that can not lose their temper completely at you, that they can kind of like manage their own emotions. So you're not trying to manage their emotions for them or tiptoe around and walk on eggshells. Those are unhealthy traits. So try to find someone as self-regulated as
Yeah.
possible.
And at the same time, it's, as you say, a lot of it is about the self. So we've also got to be that person that's self-regulated, that can see the problem as the problem and sort of face that issue together. So it's a fun time. Well, that's one way of looking at it, I guess. And thinking back to what you said about almost as if the whole world's trying to rip you apart. This time last year, I was having a conversation with my partner, because between us, we've got 4 kids.
Okay.
And both, shall we say, other parents aren't on the same page as us, shall we say.
Yeah.
And we're in this position where we're looking at, okay, both of us could potentially have a court case coming up with regard to child contact and all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, we're still getting to know each other. We've got different age children, because my 2 are 13 and hers are now, what? They're 9 and 6 now, so 8 and 5 last year. And on top of that, because we're living in what was her grandmother's house, her grandmother passed away. So we didn't know how long we're going to be in the house or anything as well. So we could be looking at either renting somewhere or buying a house. So it's like, if we get through this year together, we can get through pretty much anything.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And we have.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like that first year. Actually, okay, I'll throw a statistic at you. In a blended family, it takes on average 4 to 7 years to kind of feel blended finally. And I think a lot of couples call it quits in that before that first 4 years.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this is hard, especially that first year. Oh my goodness, that anyone that's lucky to make it through that first year, right? And it is hard. Like, let's do this together. There's so many things that complicate the relationship, but knowing
Yeah.
people that have come through that, like, hey, this was hard for us too. This is not just your problem. This is like just a blended family thing, and that it comes on the other side. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we didn't call it quits, because we did actually talk about that at one point. It was so heavy for us. I'm so glad we didn't, because my family is my greatest blessing today. I mean, it's just the most beautiful thing. So it does get better, and it
Yeah.
can be better. And I could never have imagined how we would have come through, how the relationships could have shifted in the ways that they have.
Yeah. And I think in some ways, the first sort of 3, 4, 5 years of shall we say, original family unit, the first 5 years of being parents, that puts a big test on them anyway. Because before
Right.
we get married, you don't have those conversations of, well, who's going to fulfill this role? How do we raise children? How are we going to discipline them, and all this kind of things? Because we don't talk about it. So, and we almost assume that our partner will be on the same page as us and think about it the same way. But we don't even think the same way about our music tastes or our movie perspectives or anything like that. So it's not really surprising that the divorce rates are as high as they are. Plus, it's a
Yes.
lot easier than it's ever been before.
Right. Right. Yeah, the divorce rates are crazy. When both parents come into the relationship with kids, the divorce rates are almost 70%. That's mind-blowing
Yeah.
to me. Like that's so how do we become that 30%, right? And so many people try to do it alone, and it's
Yeah.
hard. You don't get a special badge for
100%.
doing it on your own, right? You find someone to guide you through that journey, because it's tough stuff.
Yeah. I saw a reel or a podcast or something online a few times now where they're talking about the people that have been incarcerated over in the States. And there's a really, really high percentage of them that have come from single mother households where both parents are there, not a problem. Or if it's a single dad, is not a problem. But these single mums,
Mm.
that those rates are scary. Now, I've got nothing against single mums at all. In fact, I respect them, because it's being a single parent is hard,
Mhm.
especially if the other parent is, shall we say, not involved, whether it be their decision or yours. It's still tough.
Right.
Even more so if you've got more than one kid and you're trying to balance the finances when it's tough to make ends meet as a couple, and doing it on your own makes crazy. I take my hat off to them,
Yeah.
but it's some
Yes.
scary numbers.
Yes, the statistics are almost overwhelming sometimes. When you look at all the different statistics, you're like, why should I even try? It feels almost hopeless. So we try not to get too hung up there, especially if you're going into a blended family, right? That statistic is a scary number. We can acknowledge that, but we don't want to stay there, because it is scary. And like you're talking about, single parenting statistics are also scary, and we don't really want to face it. Face the realities of those either.
Yeah.
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 I was gonna say, we both had one child from our previous marriages, and then we had two more together. So we have like a true blended family, yours, mine, and ours type of situation. And the dynamics have changed even more since we've had more kids together, and just all so beautiful. Actually, it's brought us even closer since we've
Yeah.
had more together, and it's the best. I wouldn't trade it.
So when I'm guessing that both you and your husband want to treat all children equally, or at least have them feel like they're being treated equally, even though that doesn't always happen,
Right.
because we can't control our children's emotions, unfortunately. If the children that are with another parents keep coming and going, do they feel like they don't fit in as much as the two that are there all the time, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know if I can, I mean, I can't answer completely for them, because I'm not in their head, but but I imagine that, yes, I think there is some feeling of a difference, at least. We have one child in particular that is not here nearly as much as the other three, and there is a difference there, with just the time, right, with the family. But we do our very best that when they are here, that we're doing things as a family, that, we're strengthening those connections. And I hope that they feel as welcome as possible. It's getting a little easier now that they're older. My two oldest are teenagers now, and so they have phones, and we can text them and involve them, video call them, right, and keep them more involved that way when they're not physically with us. But it is tricky, and you can't keep things fair. This is actually something that came up on
Yeah.
my TikTok account this week with Christmas time. Like some parents are like, well, we can't keep it fair because that kid's not here all the time, so they shouldn't get as many presents. And I was like, I don't completely agree with that. I think that when the kids are here, we treat them as fairly as possible, because the message we're trying to send is that you're welcome here, you're loved here, you are part of our family. It doesn't matter if you're gone half of the time or more than half of the time, even, like, you belong here. I think that's such an important message for the kids.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something that comes up for me with regards to treating them fairly, because we've got my two that, well, both sides kind of come and go a little bit, but the way it's been for the last, I don't know, 6-8 weeks, my partner's two are with us for 8 days, then the dad for 6 days, and at the end of the eight days, it's like, can you tidy your rooms, please? Well, why do I have to tidy it? Why can't brother or stepsister do their part? Okay. Well, in those 8 days, they've spent one night here.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the stuff on the floor. Is it yours or theirs? Well, it's mine. Well, so who do you think should be tidying it up? Well, we should be doing it together.
Yeah, it really is little things like that that are unexpected. You're like, well, how do I handle this situation, right? How do we handle chores and cleaning the house? And this kid's not here as much as this one is. Like, how do we do that? And there's no black and white answer. It's very gray, and a lot of people will have opinions about it. And so you just have to make the decisions that do what feels best for your circumstances and your family, your partner.
Yeah. So when in those times where a child does need some kind of discipline and you're the step parent, I certainly feel like that it's not really my place to do the discipline stuff. But when they get to my partner and she's pulling her hair out, then I kind of step in. But I haven't experienced it myself yet, but that response of, well, you're not my dad or you're not my mum, why do I have to do what you say, and all this kind of thing. How does someone handle that?
Yeah, that is such a hard question, because, again, like I said, each relationship will be so different. So it will really depend on your relationship with the child and how they're receiving you. My recommendation, which is actually backed up by a lot of science and things too, is that the step parent stay out of the parenting, at least for the first bit. So, like, as long as possible, we let the biological parent do the parenting as much as possible, especially when it comes to, like, discipline. Leave it to the parent. It will go over better, and it will help your relationship with that child. If I try to just immediately jump in and take over, it will spin around on me. It's gonna make things harder in the long run. We'll just say it that way. That it will turn around on you and make your life much more difficult, because the child's like, who are you? Why are you coming in and just telling me all this stuff all of a sudden? Like, they don't even see you as an authority yet. So focus on building the relationship first before you try to jump in. Just be that awesome adult in their life that they love to see, like work on that connection. Let the parent, you be the fun one for a while so that relationship can grow. They already have that strong relationship with their parent. And so if the parent says something that they don't like, that deeper love, that root is still there, right? And they can like get over it, but they don't have that with us as a step parent yet. So you say something they don't like, that's really going to hurt and might harm the relationship permanently. So
Yeah.
I would do everything in your power to avoid that. Now, I know because I've worked with lots of clients and done it myself, like sometimes the other parent isn't always here when I'm with the step kids. And so what do? What I usually recommend is coming up with some house rules as a family unit. We all sit down, have a family meeting, and say, okay, we're going to make just some basic house rules that everybody follows. It doesn't matter what family you're from, Mike. We're not doing that. This is just the rules of the house. Even if it's the neighbor kid, they're still going to follow these rules. And so we agree on the rules. We all feel good about the rules. And then we could even like post them on the fridge or on the wall where everyone can see. Everyone follows those rules. So if I am at home with all the kids, right, and my partner's not with me, I see someone jumping on the couch, and that's one of our rules, like, hey, we don't treat the furniture that way. I can say that and say, hey, remember our house rule. I could like physically even point to it. This is a house rule. I need you to stop doing that, please. I'm not actually disciplining them in the moment. I'm just reminding them of the rule that we all agreed on originally.
Yeah.
So that's one way to kind of help with that transition. The reason we do it as a family meeting is because the kids are more invested in it. They were part of that conversation. And it wasn't just, here's how we're going to do everything in our house, right? We're not just laying the law. So they're involved in that conversation, especially when they're ages like you're saying your kids and those step kids are same as mine. My kids range from 15 down to 4. And so those are all ages that we could all be part of that conversation. Maybe the 4-year-old, debatable depending on the day. But they feel invested when you're inviting them in the conversation. So absolutely, I always recommend come up with some house rules that will help make the transition easier for everyone, and it will help you get on the same page as your partner. Here's what we feel strongly about. Maybe these ones we're going to have to talk about, or sometimes in extreme cases, we might parent our kids a little bit different if we can't get on the same page. So that does happen sometimes too.
Yeah. I've seen some comments on social media that sort of say, well, I've just seen some podcast somewhere saying that because I've got kids, I'm undateable, which is not something I agree with. It's certainly not been my experience. I think it does depend on the age of the children a little bit. Because if, for argument's sake, you've got kids and they've grown up and left home, you may not want to go back to the changing nappies stage.
Right.
But at the same time, you might. I don't know. Something I do remember seeing on a lot of dating profiles when I was on the online dating stuff myself was the expression that my kids are my world, and that will never change for any man. So what is behind women putting that on their profile, do you think?
Oh, I actually see that a lot on on TikTok. I'm on TikTok and I see a lot of very strong opinions out there. Excuse me. My take on it is I believe if you want a blended family to work, you have got to put some emphasis and some focus on the partnership as your relationship. Because I don't even know what the point is, like why you're even in a relationship if that's not going to be a high priority. Now, when I say that, I always get backlash because people are like, yo, what? You're neglecting your kids? And that is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that if you're going to be in a relationship, then be in the relationship. Right? Like, be all in or don't be in it at all. So if I'm focusing on my relationship, if my partner is my partner, we're working together to make a beautiful family environment. It actually ends up benefiting everyone even more. When there is a healthy, thriving couple in the house, that is such a gift that we can give to our kids, right? Focus on healthy there. That we're working as a team, we're working as a partnership. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful example that we're setting for the kids. And hopefully they can see that and say, wow, that's something I want to have in my life someday. I want to have a partnership where, I have my person and we work together. What I see sometimes when people blend in families is they just want a roommate, someone to kind of like share the cost with them. And that is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to put time in on that relationship, then yeah, it's not. If your world is your kids and you literally mean that you don't have time to let another human in your heart, then I don't think there is a place. You're not ready mentally to be in another relationship. It's not fair to your person. It's not fair to just say,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you're using them for their resources, to babysit or to bring in money or whatever it is you're having that person do. That's not fair in a relationship. That's not what a healthy relationship looks like. So I feel really strongly about that. That's a hot topic for me. But I do think there is pressure. Why do women do that? There is pressure there as a mom. Perhaps they were in a relationship where it was unhealthy. Maybe it was toppled the other way. And so they've become rigid, possibly. I don't know. I can't say for everybody, but those are possibilities. But if somebody is saying something like that, they may not be ready to be in a blended family relationship.
Yeah, because for me, it definitely feels like it's coming from a place of fear of I don't really want to let you in, so I'm going to use my kids as a bit of a shield.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think that could definitely be a reason for a lot of people.
Can you imagine a man, the kickback to a guy putting, my career is my world and I will never change that for any woman. Can you imagine the kickback for that?
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not ready for a relationship. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
To me. And it's the same message. It is.
Yeah.
This
I
is my
remember
number one
being
priority.
at I remember being at a network marketing seminar many, many years ago. There was an Irish couple speaking, and the lady caught my attention when she says, a, a lot of my friends disagree with me when I talk about my priorities and my values. She says, at the center of the circle, there is God. And the next part of it is stewarding my husband. Then there's the children. Then there's everybody else. And my friends keep telling me that I should put my children before stewarding. And she says, well, no, because if I don't make him a priority now, when they've grown up and left home, gone to university, got married or whatever else, why should he make me a priority then? Because by then he'll be on the golf course having fun with his mates and I'll be on my own.
Right.
Selfish reasoning, but at the same time, I see a lot of sense in it. And as you mentioned earlier, it also gives the children a foundation for what a healthy relationship looks like. And also they're living in an environment of love
Yes.
instead of
Yes.
disconnect and fear.
Yeah, and the kids can feel it. They may not see it. They may not see you disagreeing, but they can sense if things are good or if things are not great. And
Yeah.
if you want to create safety in your home, which is that's how kids thrive, is in safety, it starts with your partnership. It really does.
Yeah.
And people take it so extreme. Oh, so you're going to neglect your kids. No, I can have lots of priorities. My partner can be a priority, and also my kids can be
Yeah.
a priority. Like, I love my kids. And we have to balance. Sometimes my kids do get more time than my partner, but I make sure my person is on my schedule because they're a priority to me.
Yeah.
So sometimes my kids take more time, if especially like if I have a newborn or even a toddler, there's a lot of time required there. Um, and so there's some give and take. It's not one or the other. I'm not choosing one or
Yeah.
the other. I'm choosing to create a strong family environment.
Yeah. And I think any relationship is a little bit like a three-legged race. You've both got your
Yes.
individual legs and you've got that one tied together. If you don't put your individual leg down or your partner doesn't, you both fall over. And if you don't use that joint leg in the middle, you fall over. Which one's the priority?
Right. You got to
they're,
use them.
they're all
Yes, you got to use
equal.
them.
They're just different.
Yes, exactly.
But
I actually love that analogy. That's a good one.
yeah, I keep coming up with crazy things like that. But it gets the point across, I think. So for someone who's just getting into a blended family relationship or has the possibility of one coming up, what's the main thing that they need to hear?
uh, Trying to like rewind my brain. What did I need to hear? It will be hard, but it will be worth it. Putting in the time, putting in the effort will be worth it. So, and I, I think the messages I personally needed were you are not alone in this. I felt very, very alone. Like I didn't even know anybody else that was a step parent at the time. Now I know many, but I felt very isolated, and that's not the reality. There are a lot of step families out there. I mean, in the United States alone, 40% of families are step families. Like, what? That's crazy. I had no idea. So why did I not know any of these people? Because they weren't talking about it, probably. Right. Hi, I'm in a step family. Okay. Right. That's not how people were introducing themselves to me. But
Yeah.
you're not alone, and it will get better, and you don't have to do it on your own. There are people that have done it, and there are great tips out there. I got certified as a step parent coach, learned skills that work for step families, because we do have to think different. If we're trying to fit inside this box of nuclear family, traditional family, it's not going to fit. It's trying to get a square peg into a round hole. Is that the saying? It's not going to
Yeah.
work. So we have to think outside the box, but it can be amazing and beautiful, and all the things you have envisioned. You just may have to go a different way.
Yeah. So how do you become a step parent coach?
Well, so I got certified as a life coach originally, and then there was a step parent certification that I did online, and they taught a lot of the classic step family strategies. I mean, even certain therapists specialize in step family things, so it was just a course that I took.
Excellent. I didn't even know you could do such things. I don't think there are things like that over here. There are a lot of life coaches that may focus on a specific area of life for meets relationships, other people that be finance and just about every other topic you can think of. But at the end of it,
Right.
it all comes back to the relationship I have with me.
Yes.
And if that one's in a mess, the relationship I have with my partner is going to be in a mess. The relationship I have with my business is going to be in a mess. So it's the one with my children. It's all about that going within.
Yes. And some people think it sounds selfish, but if you think about it, I like to call it the family fountain. And I imagine like a water fountain, that has like three different levels, three tiers. The water fills up, it fills up at the top. And I like to think of that as ourselves. I start there, it fills up. When it's filled, it starts to spill out to the next tier, which I like to consider as our partnership, our relationship with our person. And then that fills up with water. And then what happens? It spills over the edge to the bottom tier, which is the kids and the family unit. But I can't start filling it up the bottom first. It's never going to get to the top if I do that. Right. So to have it flowing and being this beautiful fountain, it has to start at the top. It has to start with me being okay. If I'm not filled, if I don't fill my own cup, I have nothing else to give anyone. And I'm not as useful. But if I am filled, then with the abundance, the extra water, I can then help fill the other areas of my life and my family.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once it goes over the top, overflowing the bottom level where the kids are, then it goes out into the rest of the world and affects everyone else.
Yeah.
Hopefully in a positive way.
Yes. And I very strongly believe that strong families change the world. If we could strengthen individual families, we would have a different world than we have right now. I think that's where, when things are hard in our world, it's, if you could look and take a microscope, it would start back in those family units. That that's where we've got to put our efforts.
Yeah. So if somebody's in a relationship with someone who's got a child from a previous relationship, and that child happens to be neurodivergent, whether it's autistic or ADHD, and shall we say brings extra complications or challenges to that relationship, have you got any guidance or advice or tips on dealing with that?
Yeah, I think my best tip, I think that's actually a very common situation. I think that you can get educated as much as possible on that, because I believe that many people are not educated enough, especially about both of them, but ADHD. I think we know what that looks like, but it's actually a lot different than we
Yeah.
realize. What strategies can we use? So just allow yourself to learn about it. What can I do to support my partner? If this is their child we're talking about, ask them, how can I support you? And become teachable. I don't know how to handle this well. Can you show me? And allow yourself, like, you're probably going to be bad at first. You're going to do things wrong and you're going to mess up. And hopefully you're able to learn from those mistakes, right? Don't go in being really proud and saying, I'm the best parent, I know how to handle every situation, right? That's not going to go very well. But if I could say, I am not sure how to handle this the right way, I want to learn, I want to figure it out with you. That's how you become on the same team. So there is no black and white answer on that either, which it's hard because there's not a lot of super clear answers.
Yeah.
Become teachable, learn, figure it out, practice, try again, apologize when you screw up, right? Even to the kids, like, I didn't handle that very well. Can you forgive me? Let's try this again. Let's do a redo. And it's hard. If you need a break, that's a lot. to just step into. If you
Yeah.
need a break, figure out how to take care of yourself so you do have that water to share with other people. Because if they're draining you, you won't have as much to give. It won't be your best self.
Yeah. And I think with any relationship, whether there's children involved or whether they're biological children or blended family children, I think if the environment is set up in a way that you don't feel safe to be yourself,
Mhm.
then something needs to change.
Yes.
Some conversations definitely need to be had.
Yes. If you feel like you're the one always giving or always changing, or you don't even recognize yourself anymore, those are some red flags of an unhealthy relationship. So absolutely
Yeah.
want to stay true to yourself. And the thing is, in a healthy relationship, I can have my own opinions and ideas and activities that I like to do, and my partner can have his as well. And like, I am a whole human being and he is a whole human being, and we can do that together. I don't have to become exactly like him. I don't want to be too enmeshed, because that's where codependency happens, which is unhealthy.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be that. So I'm a whole, you're a whole person, and we work together. We take our strengths and use them. Where I am weak, maybe you're strong there, and like we can become even more, right? Even
Yeah.
better as we work that way. But absolutely, I think that's really, really important. That's something I work with my clients on, is staying true to yourself, setting boundaries, personal boundaries, emotional boundaries, so I don't lose myself in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people haven't even found themselves.
Yeah, that's really important. If you're getting into dating, work on that first.
Yeah, definitely. Who do I want to be in this relationship? Start
Yeah.
there. Never mind who your ideal partner is, because they may not be attracted to who you are showing up or wanting to show up and wanting to be in that relationship. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with self.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if we want to attract this kind of person, we need to be this kind of person. That's who they'll be attracted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, we end up morphing ourselves into what we think or feel or believe they want or desire. And that goes for the relationship with the children as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
I think that I think that child will want me to play computer games with them all the time, or take him to McDonald's every week, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But if you're a health food, really into health and healthy eating and all that kind of thing, are you really being your authentic self going to McDonald's every week?
Right. Right. That's such a good point. Yeah, I don't think about it as the parenting. That's why we set boundaries, right? Even with our kids.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that right now. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to say no to our kids sometimes. I think what you're saying, we don't want to lose ourselves. Plus, when we do that, that's when we become resentful. I don't want to
Yeah.
resent my kid because I'm eating at McDonald's every week. That's on me. I said yes to that, where I could have said,
Yeah.
how about we do this instead, right? So if you're feeling resentment, which is very common in blended families, it's probably because you are doing something that you are not comfortable with, or it's
Yeah.
not true to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So as we're getting close to the hour mark now, if anyone's listening to this and thinking, actually, I could do with some more guidance or depth on this topic, how can they find you and reach out to you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's blendingbravely.com. You can find me there. I've got free resources on there. My most popular resource is 13 significant steps to blending your family. So if you just want like a quick bullet list, that's the one for you. I have one about how to get out of mom or stepmom burnout. And then I have one that's tips for building stronger connections and bonds in your blended family. So that's on my website right now. Those are just free. You can grab those. You can get on my email list where I just sometimes I'll send free resources that I create. I used to be a school teacher, so that's kind of just built into my heart to create worksheets and resources and things that people can use. So yeah, that's one way. If you want to find me on social media, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. My handle is It's Me, Brittney P. Brittney is spelled Brittney, if you want to find me there. So I share lots of tips and resources on there as well.
I'll stick all the links down in the show notes as well to make life a little bit easier. So, question that's just come up for me. I was speaking to a guy called Joe Holton on his podcast recently, and he talks about this thing he calls parental martyrdom, where you're coming from a place of nobody can look after my children like me. So you don't let anyone else into that little circle. So how much of an issue would something like that be with a blended family?
Oh, I have never heard that term, and I think it's a great one because we do turn into martyrs sometimes for our kids. But if you're doing that, here's the problem is it can actually complicate the relationships with the other adults in your kids' lives, like a lot. I've seen the reverse side of that. So if my child has a step parent in their life now, and I am being that martyr for them, oh, they can't take care of you. That new stepmom, she's not as good as me. And I'm like making it mean something. I'm having feelings of jealousy or whatever. It actually makes that relationship so much more complicated for your child. You are making your child's life harder by doing that. Where they feel it's actually called a loyalty bind. They get stuck in this bind where they have a hard time letting this new adult into their life, someone that could influence them for the better. But now all of a sudden the relationship's complicated because they're like, well, my mom's going to be mad if I allow this new person to like be part of my life, which they're not, maybe not even threatening to like. Most of the time, the stepmom is not trying to become the mom. But what happens is that the biological mother makes it mean something. And so all these feelings come up. Well, now all of a sudden my child is torn and they are like physically, like mentally in a bind. If I do this, they're feeling guilt, they're feeling shame, and that's coming from me because I put that guilt there. If I say, you know what, you've got this new step parent in your life, and this is going to be really fun. I'm excited for you. You're going to learn great things from them. And I give them permission to allow this person into their life. I release all of those chains. And later, the situation is what it is, right? We've already had a divorce or a separation or whatever it is, that's already happened. And so if I can just free my child from that, they don't have to carry my chains around. So much easier on the kids. If you want to do them a favor.
Yeah. And something else that I don't think helps the especially stepmom situation. And that is when you watch all those Disney movies when you're a kid, every single one of them that's got a stepmother in it, the stepmother's evil.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always the case.
Most of the time I've found it's not. I have found that every stepmother I have worked with has been an incredible, loving, and beautiful human. And I agree. Disney has not done us any favors there, which is frustrating. sometimes it can seem like they're the evil stepmom, and I think it's just a cultural thing that we've learned as a society, like, oh, why are they like everything I do is wrong? And actually, myself as when I am the stepmom, I put that on myself sometimes, like, oh, I just got upset with my stepchild. I'm the evil stepmom, right? And I put that on label on myself. So I think absolutely it is time for us to change that story, change the narrative there. Step parents in general are not evil. I mean, I don't, it seems like stepdads often will be like, wow, you're so great that you stepped in for those kids. It is the same for a stepmom.
Yeah.
It's the same story. It's just that I don't know if it's because of women taking it more personal or I don't know what's going on there, but something needs to change in our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely on both sides of the fence. So, final question. As this podcast is called Relationship Revolutions, if there was one thing that could bring a revolution or evolution to the world of dating and relationships, what would that be?
I actually think it goes back to what we talked to about working on ourselves. Let's strengthen ourselves. Let's heal our past hurts and become strong individuals. I think that if everyone can do that, our world would be a different world.
I have to agree with you there. That's certainly one of the top ones on the list for me. Brittney, it's been an honor and a pleasure chatting with you. And you never know, we might be back again soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you for listening. And if you haven't already, please leave me a review on your preferred podcast platform. Click the like button and also subscribe so that you get the new episode notifications. I'm curious, what did you take away from this episode? Please share your takeaways with me. Send me an email to relationship-revolutions@theloveengineer.rocks.